Pigweed here. Today we review an IPA and discuss 20 ways the world could end quickly. Hello and welcome to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crow Hill. Good evening, Crow Hill.
Good evening, Pigweed.
What is on your mind?
I've really been worried about the chemicals in my socks.
So, the chemicals in your... I'm not sure I get it.
Well, okay, so I've heard that there are these weird chemicals that get into the laundry, and they can soak into your skin, and they're not good for you.
I'm not sure that's true, but you're only worried about your socks?
Well, they touch my feet.
Well, they touch your feet. Yeah. Hopefully, you're wearing clothes on, like shirts and pants also.
Pigweed, I mean, come on. Here I've got this thing that I'm concerned about, and you're just making it worse. Now, I got to worry about the rest of my clothes?
Well, kind of. Like, focusing on a small thing while you're overlooking the other things seems like a lack of judgment here.
So you're suggesting I should just go around naked?
Not saying that. Whoa, boy, am I not suggesting that. That is definitely not. But I'm just saying, if you're going to go all in about concerns about the chemicals in the fabrics touch all your parts, and parts I didn't want to talk about, beyond your socks.
Okay, but you know what I also heard?
No.
Is that there's an antidote to some of these chemicals.
And?
It's beer.
Ah! Good. Yes, I'm sure it is. Gosh. Well,
So,
the
beer,
number of things that beer has solved in my life.
It's good for what ails you.
I say, what was it? Alcohol is not the solution, but it is a solution. Technically.
Yes, it is technically a
a solution.
That's right, yeah. Yeah,
Right.
So...
it's a lovely can. It looks like a wedding invitation.
It's very fancy. It looks like a invitation to a Viking wedding or something. And I can smell this beer from here.
I know.
It's hard not to.
So
not to drink
when I
this.
said IPA, I didn't really give the whole story, did I?
Yeah. Wow.
It is a Phantasm Double IPA from Elder Pine out here in nearby, Howard County.
And wow, what an aroma on this thing.
So that aroma comes from Galaxy and Mosaic.
Mm-hmm.
Super light because the grains are what?
Wheat and pale malt and flaked wheat.
So wheat, which usually can cloud a beer.
Right.
I ain't seeing it.
I'm not seeing any cloudiness in this one.
But I'm smelling the stink.
Wow. This is a lot of hops going on here.
And, oh gosh.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes you get to an 8.3, and you need some heavier malts to cover the heat. I'm not getting any burn.
No, I think it's the hops that are covering the heat here or something, because I'm not getting any 8.3 flavor at all.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It doesn't come in hot, and it gives you a solid mouthfeel.
Yeah, it's delicious, but you wouldn't want to chug this. I mean, the hops are so strong that you really have to sip it.
Well, and are you getting this part? Did you see this? Ale brewed with Sauvignon Blanc grapes.
Wow.
Are you getting any grapiness or wininess?
No, I think all it's really doing is giving it a little more alcohol without increasing the body. But wait a minute, on the aftertaste, I am getting a little bit of wine flavor there. Just
now that I planted the
exactly.
idea.
Now that you planted the idea in my head.
Yeah. Well, it's a lovely can.
Very well done, Elder Pine. Keep them coming.
Yeah,
very good. Very good. Let's send us the rest of your.
All right. So this is your idea here. What was the impetus behind this end of the world scenario?
I get so sick of there are certain talking points that get passed around to politicians, and all the politicians, all of their stooges in the media just repeat those talking points over and over and over. And one of them is...
Don't say it. Go ahead.
Global warming is an existential threat. Existential threat.
They've never heard the word before.
I know. They don't even know what it means.
They don't even know what it means.
But they keep saying it's an existential threat. And I get so sick of hearing this.
Which they mean it's right in front of us, imminent, about to happen at any time.
And also that it could affect our existence, our very existence. You know, like all of humanity could be wiped out.
If we don't address this, we're all going to die.
Yeah. So, but we've talked about global warming before, and I don't really want to talk too much about global warming. But my reaction to that is, okay, so fine, you believe that global warming is an existential threat. Aren't there other existential threats? I mean, aren't there other things that could wipe out humanity, that could wipe out the planet, that maybe we should pay some attention to, or at least have some discussion about or be aware of? Or some, is it all global warming? Is everything global warming?
Yeah, yes, or just chemical socks.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So, but seriously, so and I see you have them neatly organized into categories.
Yeah.
But I would like to also do some subcategories as we go along, like the global warming is wow, we're going to be in big trouble. All right, so. In 50 years.
And it's always another 50 years. It always tolls, you know?
Right. So it was 7 years until the 7 years passed.
Right.
And it got scrubbed from history. All the people who said that. So now then it turned into 15. And now it's by the end of the century. So So categorizing them in terms of super imminent, pretty near dangerous, and what would you say? How about less than 5 years?
Okay.
As short term.
Okay, sure.
And over 5 years as long term. So we're gonna do these. Are gonna be I's, S's, and L's as we go through them.
Okay.
And so your first category I see is natural causes.
Natural causes, right? So how about an asteroid impact?
Okay, so there we go.
Yeah, and it's happened before. It's not like we're immune. You know, supposedly the dinosaurs were wiped out by an asteroid impact, although there's evidence that it might have been something else, which we'll get to in a minute.
All that pockmarking on the moon.
Yeah, exactly. It's the moon. Right. The moon has been beat up.
Now the universe has settled down, and so there's a little. And we also have apparently Jupiter is saving us from a lot of
Isn't
activity.
it interesting? This is one of those things that
the gravity draws this.
Yeah. So this is one of those things that people will point to as like a fine-tuning argument. You know, that Jupiter, being this massive object farther out in the solar system, draws to itself a lot of the things that might have come and messed with us.
Right.
Although,
so the chances of hitting us, but how about what was it, Armageddon, the Bruce Willis?
Yeah.
Now, I know comets and stuff.
Yeah.
We can predict 75 and 125 years in advance, and there are certain asteroids.
There are certain things that are in orbit, and we've seen them, and we know where they're going and what they're doing.
We're monitoring everything all the time.
Yeah, we're trying to. Although every once in a while, something sneaks up on us.
Yes, that one that hit Russia in the 20s or something like that. Yeah. It came from the backside of the sun or something, and they're like, we didn't even know where it was coming.
Where did that come from? That was just
so it's not like we always could, but do you think there could be an Armageddon movie situation where we can see something that's going to hit the Earth within a year, say, and we could muster up something to go
a year would be pretty hard, but I mean, I would hope we'd have a little more time than that. But you would think that you'd put together, you'd have like a Manhattan Project. You'd pull together the best scientists in the world, and you'd say, "What are we going to do? How are we going to push this thing?"
Scientifically, we talk about the idea of landing on orbiting asteroids,
and they've done it, and it's an astonishing feat that you have this thing in space that's moving around,
gigantic rock,
and it's moving itself, and then you're going to have some other thing come up and like land on that thing. It's really an astonishing
and the physics of it. If you catch it if it's 5 years away, and then the trajectory is actually going to hit the Earth. I mean, how much nudging do you need to do?
Yeah, exactly. You might not have to push it that much. Yeah, the farther out 1%, you get it. Probably the farther out you get it, the less you need to push it. But and maybe you could use a nuclear bomb, or who knows what solution they'd come up with.
All right, so back to the catastrophe.
Yeah.
Let's just say it's. We discover it so late. There's nothing you can do.
Right.
And yes, the life on Earth is changed forever.
Yeah.
I'm sure whoever takes whichever continent takes the direct impact gets hurt the most, but we all do.
Exactly, because it throws dust into the atmosphere. We basically kills plant life because there's no sunlight coming. It's a
which is something like number 2.
Yeah. Supervolcanic. And this is what I was talking about before. When people say that the dinosaurs were killed by an asteroid impact in Mexico, people are starting to think that there was a series of eruptions in India, actually, that might have contributed to the right around the same time. But the point is, you have some supervolcanoes. Apparently, Yellowstone is a supervolcano, and it's not showing any signs of going anytime soon, but maybe sometime. And a supervolcano, we're talking about something that erupts, a huge eruption.
And there wouldn't be any particular warning, right?
I think that there would
like
be
the
some warning.
volcanologists, would they be like, well, the big one's coming, take cover?
Supposedly, they have monitoring stations, and they can tell based on seismic readings, what's moving around and weather stuff. But I don't know.
But
I guess the thing is, we don't.
Yeah, the big one it's gonna catch us off guard. And now, I'm not sure what our definition is here, but would it just wreck the western states of the United States, or would this be a global event?
Right. So I guess it would depend on how big it was, and also it would depend on how long it goes on. So apparently this event in India that happened around the same time as the extinction of the dinosaurs, which I think is 60 million years ago, this was a volcano that erupted for 30,000 years. All right. So imagine
just stupid numbers that you can't even make
exactly. You can't even make sense of something like that. So if you had Yellowstone have one great big explosion, then maybe it wouldn't kill everybody in Siberia. I don't know, because you would definitely have bad winters and bad growing seasons, because there wouldn't be as much sunlight coming through, because you'd have all this
tourism would just be
tourism would be terrible. Yes, but so I suppose it could go somewhere from wiping out half the population to wiping out the entire population, right?
Yeah. So existential,
pretty bad. All right, the next one is a gamma ray burst. So if you have a supernova, which happens various places in the galaxy, and if it happened relatively close to us, what that does is it sends out such a huge amount of stellar material that it could rip away parts of the Earth's atmosphere as that blast comes past our planet.
The atmosphere that protects us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that raises the whole idea of protecting us gets to the next one, which is the magnetic pole reversal. Right now, compasses point to the north, but they haven't always. There have been times in history where the magnetic poles have changed. And the magnetism of the Earth is one of the things that protects us from solar radiation.
But is this flip-flop overnight, or is this like over a course of? I mean, does it like slowly move to the equator and then south? Right? I mean, what is the flipping going on?
So, from what I know, it kind of the pole. For one thing, the magnetic North Pole moves all the time anyway. It kind of wanders around a little bit, but supposedly, from what I've read, before it flips, it starts to move a little bit in a more of a volatile way, and then it kind of disappears and reappears on the other side. So there could be a time, during this flip, where we're not protected by the magnetic.
So are you giving that an eye for immediate, or a?
I'm giving that a longer term thing, because it wouldn't
short.
It wouldn't,
or longer but short, like under 5 years, or an L for over 5 years.
Yeah, that's hard to say. I'm not exactly sure on that one, but it's not an immediate thing like a asteroid impact or something like that. But it could potentially cause interesting problems. And then, of course, we've
not interesting in a cool way.
No, not interesting in a cool way. We have, of course, the problem of pandemics. COVID-19 was shocking in certain ways, but imagine something more lethal than COVID, more transmissible and more lethal, whether man-made or
Thank
natural.
You, China.
Exactly. We should probably do a show sometime on gain of function and the logic of it and the ethics of it. But anyway, so you could have either a natural or a man-made pathogen that could spread rapidly, overwhelm the healthcare system.
Or
And
it would only have to be as big as the 1918 Spanish flu.
Right, exactly. And
Right,
that was totally natural.
And was and much more devastating than the pandemic that we just
So
barely experienced.
Imagine that flu times 2.
Yeah.
And that would really mess things up.
And that would reorder society. You'd have like a European Great Plague.
Yeah.
Event where you would go. Life is fundamentally different now. We're already worried about underpopulate. Well, not everybody is,
but some people were worried about underpopulation, and the bubonic plague wiped out a third of the population of Europe.
Can you imagine every town you go to, every city you go to, within months depleted by a third?
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And that's we think we have this false security that's based on our technology that we think we're immune to those kind of things. Oh, we've got medicine, we've got shots. I'm sorry, one thing that COVID showed us is that we don't necessarily have an immediate response to all these things, and some
of our immediate responses are terrible,
are stupid and wrong. That's right. Yeah. So global pandemic is the one. A solar superflare.
I would say that would immediate. No, not immediate. Like in an asteroid strike. I'm gonna put that in the short term.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And then the solar superflare. So solar flares do from time to time disrupt our satellite system, and every once in a while they mess up the electrical grid a little bit.
Just from our sun.
Just regular solar flares. If you have a big one, then it can cause some trouble. But if you had a really big one, a big superflare, that could disrupt electric grids, take out satellites and communications networks, and that would lead to chaos.
Yeah.
It wouldn't really kill anybody. It was just like, imagine all of a sudden no cell phones work, no GPS works. That would really mess up everything that we do.
Now, are you saying that they would be disrupted or they would be fried until we replaced them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think. Imagine all the satellites.
Well, that's going to come into our human causes.
Yeah,
I'm going to write that down.
Right. So, I guess the question would be: would the satellites just be wiped out? Would their circuits be fried and unusable? Would they just be a bunch of dead satellites running around the Earth? Because if you had that, then
chaos reigns.
Yeah, and then you have war, and you have all kinds of other trouble. Right. Right. And you just have economic disruption. Jobs go away. It would be that would be
the preppers are going. Yes, I knew it. I knew it.
I knew I was saving this 20-gallon bucket of food for something.
I got 18,000 rounds. And my family's going to be eaten out. And I will kill all of my neighbors who try to
come begging for food. I'll just shoot them. Exactly. Yeah, stupid preppers.
All right, not cool. All right. Ice ages.
Yeah, so one of the things that...
What are we living in now? Are we post-ice age? Are we approaching ice ages? What are we doing?
That's a great question, because most people think of the ice age as being, what happened 20,000 years ago.
And a great Pixar movie.
Yeah, right, yes. And the fact of the matter is we're actually currently in an ice age, because whenever there's ice at both poles, that's considered an ice age. So what we're in right now is what's called an interglacial period, where the glaciers aren't as bad as they were. Like during the height of the Ice Age, over Michigan, you had a mile of ice.
Not 100 feet.
No, a mile of ice sitting on top of Michigan. And so it was quite different. You had glaciers coming way down south. It was
almost to Maryland, right?
Yeah, I mean, pretty substantial difference in the climate.
All right.
And nobody knows. Nobody's exactly sure. I mean, they have some indication, but nobody's exactly sure why we go into and out of these things.
So we warmed, and then we had like a 1,200 year not warming, just like a stagnant period, and then more warming, to finish out the ice age that we had at the time. So you're saying there's nothing stopping the Earth from doing something like that again?
There was another warm period, an interglacial period. The previous one to ours is called the Eemian, and I think it was 36,000 years ago. I can't remember the exact number, but it was way more than 36. It was maybe 300,000 years ago. But the Eemian was an interglacial period where things were more like they are right now, but then it went back into the Ice Age again. Well, there's no knowing whether we are coming out of the Ice Age completely, or whether we're going to go back into the Ice Age.
Right.
But
it wouldn't be sudden.
Probably not. No, probably not sudden. It would probably take. It would take a few decades. But
that's still pretty short. I mean, I'm going to give it a long, but that seems awfully rapid anyway.
A lot of these things,
we're talking decades in geological time.
Yeah, a lot of these things kind of build on themselves. Something happens that there's a word for this, and I can't think of it. Where one thing happens and it causes something else, and they kind of snowball, right? And that's probably the way you have these sorts of changes when you go back into the cold period, because they don't happen really fast, but they don't take a ton of time either.
So, all right, let me play this little game here. A sudden, for existential human existence,
right?
A sudden 10-degree drop,
right,
or a sudden 10-degree warm,
right?
What is worse for mankind?
The drop. Yeah, the drop is definitely worse, because if we had 10 degrees warmer, we all moved to Canada. It's okay. That's not good for Mexico, but people move north.
So you don't just stand at the beach and then wait till the water goes over your head. You just
you move. You move. Yeah, but if it was 10 degrees colder,
but you could still. Right. So the grain belt would move to Alberta and Siberia.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But if it was 10 degrees colder, then there would be far less agriculture on the planet. Food production would be harder. We'd have way less land that we could work with. 10 degrees colder would disrupt things. It would disrupt. It would disrupt shipping lanes. It would disrupt all kinds of stuff.
But isn't the case that during the Ice Age, it was so much colder, but not everywhere. Like the tropic.
Yeah,
was not if Michigan was 20 degrees colder, it doesn't mean that the equator was 20 degrees
exactly
colder.
So the middle of the planet was still pretty warm.
Yeah.
Also there wasn't one ice age. There have been multiple ice ages throughout the history of the world, and they kind of have their own cycles to them.
All right, so more. Yeah. So we're still in the natural causes.
Natural causes. The next one is loss of pollinators or other essential critters. Think how a lot of people don't realize how dependent we are on bees.
And there's been a lot of talk about bee reduction populations.
Yeah, there's been a problem with the bee population. But apparently, I didn't know this until I started reading about the problem they were having with bees. It's normal for farmers to hire beekeepers to bring hives out to their property to have the bees go out and pollinate everything.
Do your job.
Yeah, exactly. So you have people, their job is to raise bees, and then they transport their hives out to some, orchard or some whatever. They let the bees loose. They go out and they pollinate all the trees and all the whatever. And a lot of our agriculture depends upon these little guys doing their thing. And if something happened to them, if we lost a lot of the pollinators, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, a lot of them could decrease substantially or just get wiped out.
All right, what is methane clathrate?
Yeah, so apparently on the bottom of the ocean, there are these things, methane hydrates, where a bunch of methane is stored chemically in the in the sediment on the bottom of the ocean. And various things can cause that methane to be suddenly released. So if that were to happen, if something were to happen to disturb these clathrates, however you say that, you could have a huge release of methane, which would cause sudden changes to the climate, because methane is a very serious greenhouse gas.
More than ox farts.
Yes, more than cow farts, more than the emissions from your car. If something like this happened, it would be...
also the thing that they're talking about in terms of warming the tundra. I thought there was also a consequence of something being released from the warming of the tundra.
Yeah, that's
a thing?
That's, I don't know. It's not the same thing, because what I'm talking about is stuff on the bottom of the ocean. Okay. But you're right that there's a similar sort of problem with, if you warm up the tundra, there's a lot of methane that's trapped in the ice under there, and that could be released as well.
Dead woolly mammoths.
So it could be sort of a spiraling problem where one thing causes another thing, and it just gets worse.
All right, so this is, nature is always trying to kill us.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we live in the only place in the damn solar system, maybe the universe, where we are protected from all of the ways that nature wants to kill us. How about the ways that we're trying to kill ourselves?
I know. And
Would you like to enter that?
Well, the most obvious is nuclear war.
There you go.
And, the idiot in the White House is getting us closer and closer to a nuclear war with this insane policy we have in Ukraine. But leaving that aside, there's the fight over Taiwan. There's any number of things that, Iran...
The first thing he did was make sure that Iran had the capability
to create a nuclear bomb.
And then...
And just recently, Israel just struck them. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that could kick things off. Now, what about not Russia versus America exchange?
Right.
But a Pakistan, India, a Iran, Israel.
Yeah.
That would you put that on the global before and after event, or would it simply be a war?
I think
a local war.
I don't know for certain, but I think something relatively local and contained would cause a huge amount of suffering, but wouldn't wipe out humanity or anything.
Wipe out humanity, or necessarily trigger, worldwide nuclear war.
And all of a sudden, we're all having babies with 3 heads and that sort of thing.
Here we go.
Right.
Here we go. AI.
Well, there's this rich tradition of warning in science fiction about AI taking over. Think of how many times we've been warned.
At least as far as Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Maybe before that.
Yeah.
That man's hubris and his belief in controlling technology is going to lead to his own demise.
Yes, because it's the same story as Mickey Mouse, the Sorcerer's Apprentice, and he messes with something he doesn't understand. And it
could even go to Icarus.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
there you go.
So he's got his wings.
Yeah.
And he can now do things that the gods that before only the gods could do.
Right.
Until you fly too close to the sun and
yeah. And in a way, artificial intelligence, it's great, but it could also kill us. Who knows? So that's one.
Because it's not a sentient, selfish, focus-driven AI. It could just be that it's just doing what it was designed to do.
Exactly. It has an algorithm, and it says, what's the thing that causes the most suffering? Humans. Okay, wipe out humans.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. I'm just doing what you told me to do.
I know, exactly. You programmed me this way, and this was the logical conclusion. All right, so biological or chemical warfare, we have... In a way, COVID could have been biological warfare.
Yeah.
Think of something 20 times worse, where someone is actually trying to design a weapon, and they release something on humanity that,
Yeah, I I think just the recognition that it's not, no matter what I create, I can't make it not come back to me.
Yeah.
Right. If I could program the biological warfare to only kill Americans, it doesn't really work that way.
I heard
China.
a report. I don't know if I believe this or not. I heard a report that there is research on different types of pathogens that would like only kill white people or only kill black people or only kill Asians or something like that.
Right. Well, there was a conspiracy theory that AIDS was designed.
Oh, of course. Right. To kill certain people. Right. Not true. Okay. And then there's just general environmental collapse. And this could be any number of things. Severe deforestation, loss of biodiversity, pollution, all the things that people talk about. Some of these things could get out of hand. Like imagine, apparently our fisheries are in really bad shape. We could all of a sudden have a collapse of the fisheries. There's any number of weird things that could happen in the environment that would not necessarily kill us, but they would cause extreme hardship. And
we'd have to survive on a diet of carbs only.
Right. Yeah. How about something like somebody creates nanotechnology? Nanotechnology would be something along those lines. Let's say, everybody has like plaque buildup in their arteries, right? So you design nanites, nanotechnology that you can like inject in somebody, and it goes through your system and it clears out the plaque in your arteries. Right?
Well, what was it Jules Verne where you right? It's
Shrink
like
down.
A little spaceship would
yeah.
fly through your blood system.
Yeah. That was a movie with Raquel Welch.
Don't get me started.
Right. So that. Can't remember the name off the top of my head, but that was a pretty fantastic voyage.
Yes, Fantastic Voyage.
That was amazing.
I think that was
show.
my first crush as a.
I know she was something,
but
so we create some kind of nanotechnology or some other kind of technology that we think it's not AI, it's some other thing, and we think, oh, this is going to solve everything, and it has some unforeseen consequence. Same thing, Sorcerer's Apprentice, So how else can we destroy the world? How about economic collapse, where this could be from something as simple as changing the global currency or lack of confidence in a currency.
Yeah, I read one of those. So I kind of enjoy the post-apocalyptic fiction.
Mm-hmm.
It's a full genre now, and that's all it was. It started off with nothing more than a rapid decline in the value of the dollar and just its collapse. So there was no catastrophic event beyond that, and it was fascinating.
Yeah,
right?
And that kind of thing
depressing.
It doesn't cause
and not that far fetched.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world, but it's the end of our easy lives. Things get very difficult, and then resource wars. People fighting over water, oil, arable land, that sort of thing. That's kind of what's been going on forever, but the scale we could have today would be different. This one, I think, is very interesting. Cyber warfare. This ties back to some extent to what we were saying about, like a massive solar flare or something that could wipe out. Imagine full-scale cyber warfare where everybody's trying to take out everybody else's technology. And so much of our economy and our daily lives depend upon technology. If that all got wiped out,
I mean, you just start shutting down people's water plants.
Right.
Their ability to produce electricity.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And we can go for a day without having water or electricity or whatever. What if it's for 3 months?
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets a little.
I mean, you could probably eat in your house.
I could.
But,
yes.
Not everybody could.
Yeah.
And then.
Yeah, we have so much food in our house. We'd be fine. And then how about this one, which is maybe happening? Collapse in human fertility.
Yeah.
Supposedly, the sperm count has been declining. I was about to say the sperm count of males, and then I thought, what in the world? Why would I even say such a thing?
You're one of those guys.
Come on. So the sperm count has been declining for decades, and we don't know why. And nobody's concerned about it. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody is doing anything about it.
The existential threat.
Talking about existential threats. What if it keeps declining down to the point where, I mean, this is the Handmaid's Tale. I guess somebody is talking about it to some extent. But what if it got down to the point where almost nobody's having babies anymore? Our entire system, our entire economy is built on the premise of a growing population and more kids coming along.
Yeah. Right. What if you have a bunch of childless cat ladies
running the country? Yeah. And then we sort of talked about this lack of confidence in the system. Everything about our culture relies on people having a certain level of trust. Certain level of trust in the police, in the legal system, trust in that their neighbors aren't going to kill them, trust that the guy driving down the road is going to stay in his lane.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, this is how it works, and what if the whole thing collapses?
Yeah.
And nobody cares, and because, well, I mean, what is the relationship between the thin blue line? What is the relationship between cops keeping order and the general population? 5,000 to 1 or something like that. And once everybody says, I don't care what those people say.
Yeah.
The vast majority, a collapse of law and order.
Exactly. The vast majority of people obey the law because they accept the
social contract.
The social contract. That's right. And it's not because they're afraid a cop is standing behind them. It's because they think this is the way you should live. And
if we all do this, then all of our lives are equally better.
Yes.
And then once you hit some sort of tipping point.
There's some sort of tipping point where people will say, I don't care. And nobody's going to catch me and nobody's going to stop me.
Right.
And we see that to some extent in kind of the lawlessness that's happening in some cities where people just say...
where we've decided that crimes aren't crimes anymore.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that and you can't make me. You know, you see those kind of videos
cops
from time to time.
All cops are bad. And
right. So then the last one is a little bit of a joke, but not entirely.
No, it's not. I'm going to sink my teeth into this one.
Yeah, universal Islam,
right,
or universal liberalism, and by liberalism I mean wokeness. Yeah.
Or no, I would say this: a Western country that goes commie.
Yeah.
Or a Western country that goes full Islam.
Yeah.
I would say that signals a collapse in the Western Empire. I mean, the Western civilization, which is, sorry, boys and girls out there, is holding this whole damn planet together.
Exactly. Western civilization is the greatest thing that's ever happened on this planet, and we're treating it like a disposable. We're treating it like nothing.
So think about this. Think about this. If the commies and the Islamists, who are currently on the same team in their hatred of Western capitalism,
right,
get their way,
yeah,
and bring down Western capitalism, is there any coexistence between these two groups?
No, of course they'll. As soon as they defeat Western capitalism, they'll start killing each other.
They'll start killing each other, and you know who's going to win? The most violent. And who is the most violent of
the Islamists?
The Islamists.
Yeah.
So the namby-pamby soy boys, who are out there
get along,
protesting on behalf of Palestine.
Yeah.
Because, we're such great friends, and the Islamists who are seeing these useful idiots who will help them bring down the West and will immediately be cast aside.
Yes.
And I cast aside, I mean beheaded.
I'm sure you've seen the videos of various crazy Islamists saying, look, here's the way it's going to be.
This is it.
In a few years,
we're not hiding the ball here.
Yeah, in a few years, here's the way it's going to be. We're going to go door to door, and either you're going to submit to Islam or we're going to kill you.
Yeah, but after we're going to play the game.
Yeah,
and we're going to play the game, and we're going to win seats, and then once we have the power to dissolve Parliament, then that's what we'll do.
Or if they just have the power to start that process and nobody
or just
stops them.
From town to town.
Yeah.
And right now you see all the British police arresting British patriots for opposing Islamism and completely turning an eye and actually just running away in fear.
Like, think of the rape gangs, the rape gangs that were going on in parts of England. It's just, it's astonishing the extent that we've just allowed Islam to take over and do what they want, and we don't have the courage to stand up against it.
So in terms of the commies versus the Islamists, I'm looking at this immediate, short, and long.
Right.
Can help me go through the Venezuelan timeline.
Okay.
So I would say, this, just so you know, in 1992, Venezuela became the third richest country in our hemisphere.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah,
and it was mostly from oil wealth, right?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, it's
right.
got the greatest oil. It's got the third largest oil reserves.
But apparently
in the world.
it's dirty oil. But they still have a lot.
Well,
They have a lot. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So what's the
and
next
then they became the
19,
second
1997.
largest. They became the second largest purchaser of the F-150.
So I just
the Ford F-150.
Yeah, right. Just saying that everybody's
Obviously,
rich.
Yeah, they've got a lot of money. Okay.
2001 voted for socialist president on income inequality.
Oh,
okay,
lovely.
so you see where this is going.
So then they have 2004 private healthcare is completely socialized.
In 2007, all higher education becomes free. Well, that's good, right?
No, because the people who are teaching higher education are morons. 2009, socialists banned private ownership of guns.
Well.
Yeah. What does that remind you of?
2012, Bernie Sanders praises their quote American dream. Okay.
2014, opposition leaders are imprisoned. Boy, what do you think about maybe like having lawfare against your political opposition?
What do you know? Imprisoning your political opponents.
Yeah.
Okay. How about in 2016, food/healthcare shortages become widespread?
Right. That's when we started hearing about all this.
Right.
2017, the Constitution and elections are suspended.
Okay. And 2019, unarmed citizens are massacred by their own government, who are now unarmed.
Yes.
And what we're seeing in the streets right now is before the votes were counted, the ruling commies are saying that we won by 84%.
Yeah.
And the votes weren't even counted, and people are in the streets, but they don't have guns, and it's a hellhole. So how long does something from a democratic, wealthy nation go to a hellhole?
30 years. Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it?
Doesn't take that long.
Doesn't take that long, and it could happen faster. And it probably has happened faster in other countries around the world. So bottom line, there's a whole lot of ways the world could get screwed up, and we should maybe pay attention to some things other than global warming.
Other than global warming.
Yeah.
All right. Are we done here?
No, I got one quick letter to the show. Concerned Citizen asks, are you guys at all concerned that it's not quite clear who the Commander-in-Chief of the United States is?
Well, concerned citizen, CC, that's a pretty good point, because we haven't heard from Joe Biden in days. Kamala is going to tweaking concerts in Atlanta. The world's going to hell in a handbasket, and nobody's quite sure who is in charge.
Yeah, is Kamala in charge, or...
I hope not, but I don't want Joe either.
Right, exactly.
What's worse?
So I'm not sure Joe was ever really in charge. I think there were people behind the scenes running things. And Joe was kind of a figurehead. And that Kamala is now...
But now that he's admitted that he's unfit to even be a figurehead...
So how does this play on the world stage? What do the Chinese think? Like, isn't this a great time for them to invade Taiwan? Because, who's in charge?
Yeah. I mean, is Ron Klain or some Obama advisor... going to make a decision about what our military response is
to Joe Biden
or Dr. Joe Biden,
Dr. Joe Biden,
the greatest doctor of all time.
Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure who's in charge, and that creates a constitutional question, because if Joe Biden is incompetent for the job, which he is, they should get rid of him on the basis of the 25th Amendment. That's what should happen.
So then that would make Kamala the 27th, the 47th.
Yes.
What number are we on?
47, yeah.
And so then, what if...
And unfortunately, Kamala is such
then Trump,
a lunatic.
Trump has already branded himself as Trump 47. Now he's going to have to be Trump 48.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think Kamala is such a lunatic that having her be president just for the remainder of Biden's term would be catastrophic.
It would be catastrophic, but at least... I would love it because between now and the election, she would be exposed.
Yeah.
And right now, they've all come together to decide that even though she was a silly cackling
unserious moron, right?
A few 3 weeks ago, now she is the most fit person who's ever lived to become president,
right?
According to the MSM.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you, concerns. I don't really have an answer for.
I don't know.
There,
I don't know what
CC.
the answer is. It's certainly a problem, and it's the kind of problem that the media will ignore because all they're doing is reading Democratic talking points.
And you know what? That was a good choice there, Crow Hill, because in terms of existential threats,
yeah,
not having a president and the potential president being Harris.
That could be an essential threat.
Yes, that could be the end of the world as we know it.
Yes, it could. All right, here we go. Cheers.